An atom is more than 99% energy, with only an extremely small fraction being physical substance. And don't worry, I'm not here to teach you quantum physics. No need to start yawning. Considering that our bodies are made up of atoms, isn't it ironic that we focus almost exclusively on the 100,000th of a percent of reality that's actually physical? We are really leaving a lot of potential on the table, and that's why, in this video, we take a look at the book from Joe Dispenza called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And I'm sure that after this video, you'll be making a few changes in your life. Lesson 1. Life on an autopilot. Every morning we wake up and our senses remind us of who and where we are, and our brain starts preparing for the tasks of the day. We jump into our routine as usual, turn on the TV, brew a cup of coffee, quick breakfast, and off we go. We do all of this on an autopilot. Our routine is an unconscious set of automatic behaviors. Joe mentions in the book that we would be insane to expect anything in our lives to change if we keep doing the same things. Thinking the same thoughts and feeling the same emotions day after day won't lead to anything new. How could the output possibly change when the input remains the same? What happens in our brain is that it keeps using the same neural patterns. Dr. Dispenza explains that every time we respond to our familiar reality, we turn on the same brain cells that make our brain work the same way. This way, we hardwire the brain to align with the usual patterns in our life, whether those patterns are positive or negative. So when you think about it, most of us really do live life on autopilot. Yet many of us feel unsatisfied and wish for change, whether it's more money, more free time, or finding the right partner. The more we use the same neural patterns, the more deeply rooted they become in our brain. Over time, any thought, behavior, or feeling we repeat often will become an automatic unconscious habit, says Dispenza. Lesson 2. Can I use my mind to create my reality? Let me ask you the same question that opened my eyes a few years ago. If there's something you want to change about the life you live, why would you expect it to miraculously happen by thinking the same way? Please excuse me, but once again, I have to play the teacher. Let me just put my glasses on. Dispenza explains that in physics, there is a phenomenon called the observer effect. This means that just by watching something, we can change how it behaves. In quantum physics, for example, particles behave differently when they are observed. In a similar way, where you guide your attention is where you place your energy. And as a consequence, you affect the material world, which is mostly made of energy. As Dr. Dispenza says in the book, your thoughts have consequences so great that they create your reality. He adds, we don't have to settle for our current reality. We can create a new one whenever we choose. We all have that power because, for better or for worse, our thoughts shape our lives. I mean, have you noticed how when you start focusing on something, it grows? For example, when you're about to buy a new car and suddenly you start seeing that model on every step. Or when you're worrying about something and that problem just starts to seem much bigger than it initially was. It's really important to be mindful of our thoughts and make sure they align with what we really want to achieve. One way to do this is through visualization. Research has shown that people who regularly imagine their goals in their mind are more likely to succeed than those who don't. This is because visualization not only boosts your confidence, but also makes your goals feel more real and tangible. As Dispenza says, to break the habit of being yourself, you have to think greater than the circumstances of your life and be greater than the feelings that you have memorized in your body. Let's illustrate this with an example. Let's say you have a goal to lose 10 pounds. Instead of just thinking about it, try closing your eyes and visualizing yourself already having achieved this goal. Imagine yourself feeling lighter, healthier, and more energetic. See yourself walking past mirrors and smiling at your own reflection. Visualize yourself shopping for new clothes and feeling confident in your own skin. By doing this daily, you'll not only boost your motivation and confidence, but you will also set your subconscious in motion to help you achieve your goal. Lesson 3. The power of mental rehearsal. Imagine a room with pianos on both sides and a group of people who are about to learn a new melody, and you are one of them. Some sit at the pianos, fingers carefully dancing over the keys, practicing the notes over and over. Others, including you, aren't touching the piano at all. Instead, you're sitting quietly, eyes closed, mentally visualizing your fingers pressing the keys, hearing the melody play perfectly in your mind. Both groups have the same goal: mastering the simple melody. Something similar was part of some research done by neuroscientist Alvaro Pascual Leon. He wanted to answer this question: can simply imagining an activity make you better at it, even if you don't physically do it? Over several days, the first group practiced at the piano, growing gradually more confident and precise in their performance. The second group, without ever touching a key, mentally rehearsed the same melody with intense focus, seeing each note in their mind and feeling their fingers move without any physical movement. When Alvaro scanned their brains, he found something extraordinary. Both groups, yes, both had nearly identical patterns of activity in the motor cortex, the part of the brain responsible for movement. Practicing in the mind had almost the same effect as physically playing. Wow, this is really something, was my initial reaction. But how is that possible? This technique is called mental rehearsal. It works because when we vividly imagine doing something, our brain activates neural pathways similar to those used if we were actually doing it. By repeatedly visualizing each detail of the task, the brain builds the connections needed to perform the activity. Just like lifting weights strengthens the muscles in your body, visualizing an event or action can create the same neural pathways in your brain as actually performing it. Preparing for any kind of challenge is important, and rehearsing it in your mind can have a big impact on your performance. This technique is widely used by athletes, musicians, performers, and business professionals to improve their skills. For instance, a basketball player can imagine themselves making the game-winning shot, while a musician can visualize playing a difficult solo flawlessly. Mental rehearsal can also help you overcome your fears. If you're afraid of flying, you can start by imagining yourself at the airport, then on the plane, and so on until you imagine yourself landing safely. This can help you build confidence and face your fear in real life. Therapists also use mental rehearsals as a key component in treating individuals with mental health issues. A therapist might help a patient with social anxiety to visualize themselves successfully dealing with a social encounter they would normally avoid. Lesson 4. Our three brains. Think, do, be. This is a new, super powerful computer, and this is Jack and Joe. Jack is a normal computer user, while Joe is a professional who knows everything about computers. Who do you think knows more about the actual power of the computer? Of course, Joe. Jack knows little about what kinds of things a computer can do, let alone how to do them. As Dr. Dispenza says, it is often useful to compare our brain to a computer. Your computer already has all of the hardware you will ever need to change yourself and your life, he adds. But the question is, do you know how to best use it to install the new software? All that comes to understanding how our three brains work, says Dispenza. He calls them thinking, doing, and being. If you know how to drive a car, then you have probably already experienced the three brains in action. At first, you had to think carefully about every action you took and remember all of the rules of the road. After a while, you got pretty good at driving, as long as you stayed focused. Eventually, though, you became a natural driver. Your conscious mind could relax, letting your subconscious mind take control. And now, driving feels automatic. It's something you just do without thinking much about it. This shift from thinking to doing and eventually just being is how we learn many skills, and the three main parts of the brain help make this type of learning happen. The neocortex is the thinking brain. It processes information we learn and helps us put that knowledge into action in our daily lives. The limbic brain is the emotional brain that produces chemicals to help us remember our experiences. The cerebellum is the subconscious brain, and it stores all the habitual thoughts, attitudes, and behaviors. Our brains are like blank canvases, constantly changing and adapting as we add new colors and layers. Remember when you were learning to ride a bike? At first, your thinking brain, the neocortex, processes the instructions, and each try creates a new feeling in the limbic brain. Maybe nervousness at first, then excitement. With practice, the cerebellum, which stores habits, takes over, and writing becomes automatic. This is why visualizing new skills works so well. By mentally practicing, you prepare your brain, making your actions feel natural and automatic when the real moment arrives. Lesson 5. Survival versus creation. You wake up in the morning and immediately check your phone. You scroll through emails, see the latest news, and glance at social media. As soon as you get ready for the day, your mind is already focused on what you need to do, what you might be missing, or what others expect from you. Stress starts building even before you leave the house. Sounds familiar? This is what it feels like to live in survival mode. Most of us are stuck here without even realizing it. In survival mode, we're constantly reacting to the outside world, our schedule, our jobs, the demands of others. We're stressing all the time and focus on staying on top of things. Yet it still feels like we're one step behind. We're more aware of the world around us than our own thoughts. It makes us believe that the outside world, our environment, time, our body, is more real than our inner world, our mind. Then there's the state of creation. Dispenza describes it as living as a nobody. No body, no time, no thing. Our identity simply isn't tied to the material world. As we let go of all these things, we can finally focus on creating new experiences and realities. Sounds good, but how am I supposed to live like that when I have to go to work every day and pay all the damn bills? I completely understand you. Most of us have to do that. But it's more about rethinking what we place into our mind. Start small. Try asking open-ended questions like, what would it be like to quit my job that I dislike and start my own business? What if I were to move to a new country? As you start thinking about it, you will be gaining new information. That will be strengthening the new connections in your brain and breaking the old patterns. When you're in a creative state, your frontal lobe takes charge. It quiets distractions and lets you focus deeply on what you're imagining. Your thoughts start to feel as real as anything outside of you. And that makes your inner world just as vivid as the outer one. Dispenza says that this process is extremely freeing. It lets you step beyond your old identity and create a fresh start. Instead of forcing things to happen, you learn to trust in a future you can't yet see or touch. So go ahead, let go a little, and you'll find that your energy flows more freely. Lesson 6. Who you are versus who you pretend to be. Have you ever noticed that there are two sides to every person? The side they show the world and then the side they keep hidden. Our true self includes all of our deepest emotions that we often hide from others because of the distractions of everyday life. This disconnection between our true selves and the masks we wear can lead to negative emotions like fear, anger, guilt, and shame. Ultimately, many of us become addicted to these feelings, which only deepens the gap between who we really are and who we pretend to be. To cope with this emptiness, we seek distractions, such as staying busy, buying things we don't need, or turning to unhealthy habits. All of that is just a way to fill the void. These external factors don't bring us true happiness. In fact, our addictions just mask the pain and anxiety that come from hiding our real emotions. We think that accumulating more possessions will make us happy, but instead, it just makes us feel more overwhelmed. I know that feeling very well myself. It feels like there's no way out. Joe says that to break out of this cycle, we have to confront the negative emotions, the ones that fuel our addictions. Real change happens when we can look at our emotions without letting our past experiences get in the way. If we don't step back, our old memories and habits will keep influencing our thoughts and reactions, making it hard to break free from those patterns. By seeing our emotions clearly and honestly, we can finally choose to let go and start fresh. That's why it's so important to examine our thoughts, feelings, and actions closely and make changes that feel true and meaningful on a deep gut level. Also, keep in mind that advertisers want us to believe that their products can fill the emptiness we feel. But the truth is, we're often just driven by this constant sense of not enough. Lesson 7. Start with the mind. The body follows. This is Lisa. She's just about to have an important job interview. Her hands are sweating and her heartbeat is faster than a techno beat. Lisa is convinced it is going to be a disaster. She is replaying every worry. What if I stumble over my words? What if they think I'm not good enough? As she sits down, each question feels heavier, and she can't shake the nervous tension. The whole interview felt stiff, awkward, just like a test she hadn't prepared for. Now let's press the rewind button and watch Lisa come into the interview with a different mindset. This time, Lisa walks in calm and focused. She's reminding herself of her strengths and feels confident in what she has to offer. Instead of worry, she feels quiet confidence. The conversation was flowing, and the interview felt less like a test and more like a real connection. This difference shows how much the thoughts we have influence the future experiences. Our body and emotions follow the way we set our mind. Both you and I have experienced something similar as Lisa. So here you have it, a tangible proof that changing how we think is the first step to reprogramming our responses. When certain emotions take over, they start to control our thoughts and make it hard for us to change. If we keep thinking of ourselves as victims, feeling sorry for ourselves, and reliving painful memories, our bodies get used to those feelings. It's tough to feel differently when we've trained ourselves to react the same way for so long. Changing our emotions isn't just about trying to think positively. Our feelings are connected to our past experiences, and our bodies can get stuck in those familiar emotional states. That's why changing our habits and surroundings can make a big difference. It helps shift both our minds and bodies. In fact, many illnesses are significantly influenced by factors such as stress, pollution, and the lifestyle choices we make. When we keep going through the same thoughts and emotions, it wears us down and can even speed up our aging. Lesson 8. Your identity. One day, I was sitting on my couch thinking about what happiness really means, shares Dispenza and continues his story. Despite all my achievements, being a successful chiropractor, traveling the world to give lectures, and even writing a book, I felt a deep lack of joy. My friends would tell me how lucky I was, pointing out my wonderful family and career. But while I was busy traveling and speaking, I realized I had no time to actually practice what I taught. This was a big moment for me. I saw that my happiness depended on outside things, traveling, speaking, and getting approval from others, rather than coming from within. When I wasn't busy working, I often felt empty. People might have thought I was happy, and I usually told them I was. But when things were quiet, I felt something was wrong. It was like I was just going through the motions. That day, I faced a hard truth. My identity relied on other people and my surroundings. I was addicted to the outside world for my happiness, and without those distractions, I didn't know who I really was. I realized that my happiness was just a reaction to what was happening around me. It hit me hard that true happiness had to come from within, not from the outside world. This story from Dr. Dispenza really stuck with me. If nothing else, I would be happy if all you took from this video is that the real happiness we all chase so desperately comes from within, not from the car you drive, the people you know, or the number of followers you have. I have one last question for you. Did you enjoy this video? I know it can be annoying, but it would really help this small channel if you could click the like button. And every new subscriber also means the world to me. If you want to watch more of Dispenza's teachings, watch the video you now see on the left. To stop letting worry ruin your life, watch the video on the right. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.